new poll that came out this week on climate change that caught our attention, specifically about the numbers in that poll about how Republicans and conservative Republicans feel about climate change. I want to go through what that poll shows.
Basically, what's interesting about the poll, which was commissioned by a moderate Republican businessman, is that it really looked at the fact that you have the majority of Republicans supporting essentially what the president is undertaking right now. And I have to say that this is in line with frequent polls that we've seen, that essentially what's happened is you've seen strong majority of Americans who believe in mandatory nationwide controls on greenhouse gas emissions linked to climate change. And while what's interesting is that it also kind of highlighted some of the challenges that when you look at the most conservative Republicans, those are the ones who do resist this idea of, certain proposals, including cap and trade, this idea, which is actually, again, originally was a Republican idea of putting overall limits, but allowing kind of private sector trading of carbon emissions. And what's interesting about it is that this was an effort to kind of convince the Republican candidates right now that they actually are out of sync with their own voters and that they would do best to embrace some sort of positive, climate change agenda. But what you certainly see, and everyone would acknowledge this is not being reflected in the field that we have. That if anything, this field is moving more conservatively, is more confrontational.
We did hear Donald Trump very recently say, I don't believe in climate change flat out. Does this notion get any traction, do you think?
Well,
or
it's a lot of it, too, is how you ask the question. And if you look at how the poll that was put out by this Republican businessman, they asked the question about, do you think climate is changing and human activity is contributing a lot to it? Okay. 21% of Republicans said yes. When you then said, and 45% of all Americans say yes, human activity is, quote, probably contributing a little to change, now you get more Republicans saying yes. If you just flat out, as the Pew poll asks, the Earth is getting warmer because of human activity, do you agree or disagree? 71% of Democrats agree. Only 27% of Republicans agree. So I think it's pretty clear from both of these polls that you only have about a quarter of Republicans who agree with the idea the Earth's getting warmer and humans are responsible for that. So if you're a Republican candidate and you're going to go out and campaign for the Republican primary, saying that you agree that the Earth's getting warmer and human activity is the reason is not going to win you a whole lot of votes in a Republican primary.